beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. Within this video guide I'll be sharing a tried and tested recipe along with full instructions to brew a greatly refreshing and flavourful citrus themed IPA that at 5.4% ABV will be ideal as a sessionable beer for the summer. As the title says, this one is zesty, juicy and unapologetically hoppy. I will run through everything you need to know and we'll finish with a look at the end beer and my tasting notes. So let's get started. So let's now make a start with a look at this recipe's vital statistics. As you can see, the recipe offers an approximate ABV of 5.4%, making it one that you can enjoy into the evening, unlike stronger IPA recipes. The all-important BU-GU ratio shown almost at the bottom here shows the relationship between bitterness and alcohol at 0.79, which provides enough bitterness bite to make this refreshing citrus-themed IPA sing. My recipe can be found in full within this video's description area, which is underneath the video window when viewed on a desktop computer on YouTube. You will also find a link there to the full recipe on Brewfather, which can be used free of charge with some restrictions. As always, I strongly suggest that you fully convert the recipe before ordering in your ingredients so you're actually brewing the recipe as intended. I also strongly suggest that you brew this recipe as is the very first time, rather than tweaking it, as tweaks are already in place to bring this recipe into a very good shape. I have an easy guide to recipe conversion using Brewfather on my channel as shown on screen now. Within this actual video, this recipe is being brewed using a Grainfather G40 brewing system to the volume of 20 litres or 5.28 US liquid gallons, but as part of the conversion process this can be scaled and shaped to suit your own brewing system and volume requirements. Shown on screen now is the water profile that I highly recommend for using with this recipe, which is a hoppy profile which promotes hop bitterness and dryness to complete this recipe. Using the right water profile is very important. After all, beer is mostly water and its balance is vital so that it suits the beer that you are brewing. Naturally, this water profile is just one way to go here. If you have a different profile that you really enjoy with this style of beer, then go with that. But please do bear in mind that this recipe is written with this profile in mind and has been tweaked according to the results obtained whilst using this water profile. Brewfather has extremely good documentation on how to use the software to make the necessary water changes too, which makes the whole process very easy. On this basis, I suggest that all brewers, irrespective of experience, start treating their water as soon as possible for the very best of end results. You may well be surprised how easy this actually is. Let's now move into the brewing process itself. Here we start by preheating our mash water to the target temperature of the first mash step. Once reached, you can then add your grain, as you can see that I've already done here, making sure to stir thoroughly. The goal here is to eliminate any clumps and ensure that every grain is fully saturated with water. If you are using a mash paddle as is traditional, I strongly recommend adding the grain slowly while stirring continuously. This gives you the most even mix and avoids dry spots or clumps. However, if you're using, like I am, a drill powered mash stirrer, then it has to be said that this makes the job so much faster, easier, and of course, you're still achieving an excellent result. It cannot be oversaid that the mash is key to the end results of your end beer, so it is absolutely vital that you put some time in here to do the job properly. Improper mixing can lead to reduced mash efficiency and will lower your beer's final ABV, which will unbalance your recipe, making it more bitter than intended too. It was then time to start the mash. On screen you can see the mash profile used for this recipe. You can see that our first mash step is at 65 degrees Celsius or 149 degrees Fahrenheit, and at this level provides a nice balance between fermentable and unfermentable sugars, which have a direct impact on the beer's body, sweetness and alcohol potential. This ensures a body and mouthful that is not too heavy, along with a nice crisp finish to the end beer, which will promote drinkability, which is of course vital within a beer of this one's profile and aims. Let's now go through the grain bill for this recipe. The main fermentable here is Otter malt, which is used at 85% of the grist. If you cannot obtain Otter, then feel free to use pale ale malt. However, if you can obtain both, then I highly recommend Otter on the basis that it offers a flavour profile that is rich, malty, nutty, biscuity, which adds character and depth to the end beer. Some also believe that Otter offers better clarity post-boiled too. Next we have Munich Light at 10% of our grist, which as its name implies offers a lower amount of colour compared to standard Munich malt. This malt will contribute some extra rich malty, bready and toasty flavours as well as a slightly sweet profile. Then at just 5% we have Wheat Malt. At this level, Wheat Malt is great for IPAs as it supports a clean and crisp hop profile, improves head retention and keeps the beer pale and bright looking whilst adding a small amount of haze. Wheat Malt also adds in some flavour and texture that well suits this recipe. After completing the mash, it was then time to lift the grain basket and begin the sparge. I much prefer to sparge manually by hand as I firmly believe it delivers better overall efficiency than bulk sparging. Those with a sensitive palate may also notice an improvement in flavour when using this method, especially compared to skipping the sparge altogether. Sparging will allow you to extract the maximum amount of fermentable sugars from your grain. You've paid for it, sparging maximises on that investment too. During the sparge I select boil on the brewing system for a fast route forward. Once out of boil, the first job is to clear this thick foam which is part of what is known as the hop break. The hop break is when proteins, polyphenols and other solids coagulate and clump together. By clearing these quickly by stirring, we allow them to drop down and at the same time prevent a dreaded boil over. By doing this we clean up the end result, leading to a clearer end beer, improve flavour stability and make fermentation easier for our yeast. Let's now look at our boil schedule. Here I'm using modern boil time of 30 minutes and I have 3 addition times during the boil. The first 2 are hop related and use Brew1 and Citra with additions at 15 minutes and as part of a hop stand. In regard to the addition at 15 minutes before the end of the boil, the hops have enough time to release essential oils that contribute flavour, but not so much time that those oils are completely boiled off. This helps keep more flavour and aroma in the end beer. Our hopstand additions, also known as whirlpool additions, allow for much more flavour and aroma to come through due to the reduced temperature, and in return we get bright, fresh and layered hop aromas and flavour, leading to extra depth in the hop character as well as an enhanced aroma longevity. Both of these additions are also contributing to bitterness of course, but due to the difference in temperature of the hopstand hops, despite being higher in weight, contribute the same as the 15-minute addition in this regard. Let's now look at what contribution we get from these hops in this brew. Here is our aroma and flavour wheel from Hop Control. In green we have Citra. As you can see, Citra really pushes the citrus side to the maximum and also offers very good levels of tropical fruit as well as much berry and floral elements. Nothing delivers citrus like Citra, along with its array of fruit like grapefruit, mango, lime and pineapple, along with blackberries and red currants. Brew 1, shown here in orange, is highest in its tropical fruit but also serves as an all-rounder with various other areas as you can see. Brew 1 will contribute big sweet fruit flavours like pineapple, pear and mango, as well as offering grapefruit and fresh floral and herbal elements. When Citra and Brew 1 are combined, they offer a vibrant tropical and juicy hop profile that is simply lush, that pairs very well in a softer bodied beer like this one. Before our hop stand there is also the addition of lemon and orange peel. These peels are both added at 5 minutes left in the boil because we do not want to boil off the flavours and aromas offered by these for any real length of time. Personally, I have had both of these prepared and you will find them stocked at many homebrew stores. If you want to prepare your own then certainly feel free, just ensure to minimise on pith as this will add unwanted bitterness, though some of this will be fine as it will be balanced off within this recipe anyway. The orange peel will give a sweet rounded citrus note, while the lemon will balance with a sharper, more tart citrus bite. Both peels will also very nicely add to the aroma of the end beer. This combination of orange and lemon peel will really brighten up this beer with a zesty clean citrus flavouring that complements the end beer very nicely, further boosting the citrus profile. The peels will naturally also be present when you continue to your hop stand and will remain until transfer. Here I am using an immersion chiller for this cooling down to the hop stand stage. Once at temperature I then remove the immersion chiller, add the last hop addition and give it a nice stir in for at least a few minutes as part of the 10-minute hop stand. In the later stage of the hop stand I then spend some minutes preparing my fermentation vessel that is already clean and now just needs to be sanitized. It is vitally important to leave the sanitizing as late as possible before transfer to avoid any potential problems. Never transfer into a sanitized vessel that has had time to dry. Ensure that all areas are still wet with your sanitation liquid. It was then time to cool and then transfer to the fermenter, which I did with a counterflow chiller. My yeast of choice for this recipe is Lullaman's Verdant IPA yeast. This will add in further tropical fruit, notably mango and pineapple, as well as some extra citrus fruit like orange and grapefruit, as well as some stone fruit, especially apricot and peach. This yeast profile is literally made for this beer, so I would simply not recommend using anything else in all honesty. In terms of temperature with Verdant IPA yeast, you can go from 18 to 23 degrees Celsius or 64 to 73 degrees Fahrenheit, but for me the sweet spot is 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so this is what I recommend for this recipe. The very next step is concerning the dry hop additions, which are now shown on screen. Add your dry hops when you are between 5 to 10 gravity points away from your predicted final gravity. I have tried all methods of dry hopping, but frankly nothing so far has had as good results, and there is no need to buy a book either. The very most important thing here is to keep things clean and sanitary, so here is a guide to doing that in a way that has never failed me so far in hundreds of brews. In this example I'm going to use a hop sock, but the procedure is similar with other container types. This starts with boiling the bag. I strongly recommend doing this no matter if the bag has been previously used and cleaned, or if it's a brand new one straight out of the packaging. I then add this bag into a clean container and add sanitizer as a further safeguard. This will be the same container that I used to load the hops into. After this point I then wash and sanitize my hands, and this is repeated if I need to touch the bag after touching anything that is not clean and sanitary. These are very important steps to avoid contamination, which is all too common when it comes to homebrewers making IPAs because of this step. I then carefully add the dry hops with the bag lining the container, being sure that nothing touches the bag except for the hops. Once you have loaded all of your hops into the bag, then be sure to tie a nice strong knot to keep all of the hops contained. This loosely fitting hop bag, so there is room to expand, can now be added into your fermenter. In terms of contact time, 3 days is usually going to be plenty, but 5 days is fine too. I would avoid times more than a week to avoid grassy off flavours though. Let's now take a look at the finished beer, starting with the pour, and I will then go through my tasting notes. As you can see, the pour is very light gold in colour, but once in the glass the end beer is a golden orange, as you would expect from a beer of this style. I have not used any fining agents here whatsoever, as this is designed to be a hazy beer, but that is entirely up to you of course. This beer has been under 12 psi of pressure, which is 0.83 bars. I'm also using this pressure for serving too. The example of this beer that you see here is at around the 2-week point from kegging, and has conditioned beautifully flavour-wise in this time, and like many other IPA styles, this one I recommend, that it is enjoyed as fresh as possible. Let's now go through my tasting notes, starting with aroma. Aroma. The aroma here is certainly a powerful one that is naturally very citrus, with the peels and hops doing a great job here. Pineapple and grapefruit seems to be in the lead, according to my nose, but I also note much mango as well as lemon and lime. In tasting this beer, you have fast entry into a juicy and citrus fruit box that is mostly led by grapefruit, pineapple along with mango, lemon and lime. Certainly there are many other fruit flavours to be experienced as you'll make your way down the glass, which includes some background berries and pear that all hit you with a very refreshing citrus backing that tastes like it all comes from the hops, but of course we all know that the peels are making the citrus scream louder here. The finish has an easy bite to it that ends with a grapefruit and citrus tasting experience. And here are some notes. Despite this one having a fairly sober ABV for this style of just 5.4%, most of my tasters put it over 6%, which was part of my aims for this beer. I was also looking for an enhanced citrus experience to aid further in the refreshing side of this hop combination. The aim here was not to unbalance the beer with this extra citrus element, but to simply take the effect further so that it became enhanced. This part of the recipe was where most of the work was with trial batches, in finding that sweet spot. My final impression here is that this is a juicy, fruity citrus IPA experience that offers a lower level of alcohol than usual without compromise, that provides a great thirst quencher for those summer nights. So there you have it. Do let myself in the community know what you think of this video, and later on, once you have brewed the recipe, your own tasting notes, if you do not mind. It is always appreciated to have feedback. Cheers. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support, you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel, then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!